Hey, this is Cameron. Welcome back to the Busy Gardener channel. Today we are going to do a quick look and update for our long jujube 1 year later. Let's get busy. Well, jujube is a really interesting fruit. It's sometimes called Chinese date, and it resembles kind of almost like a small, tiny little apple in some ways, but it has a pit in the inside of it, almost like a date pit. And think of an apple that is not quite as juicy, but it can sometimes be so sweet, especially when it's ripe and it's brown, that is almost like saccharine sweet, but very, very tasty, snack size, and so it's fun to come get a bunch of them. We found that nothing really is a pest for these things. We don't see any birds trying to come and get them, and it's kind of neat because you can leave them on the tree and dry them, and that's found in a lot of Asian stores. They have bags of dried jujubes, but eating them fresh is really the way that we've enjoyed doing it. The most common jujube and the easiest one for most people to grow, so if you go to like your garden center, usually you're going to find what's called Lee jujube. And Lee is self-fruitful, self-pollinating, very productive and very tasty fruit. But there's another jujube called Long, L-A-N-G. And Long jujube is something that is pollinized by Lee, but also grows and gives a slightly different type of fruiting experience. Now, I haven't actually tasted the fruit of from the Long jujube because I just planted it last year, but I want to check in and see how this thing is doing this year. So as we come up and we see the Lee jujube, it's full of brand new growth, which you can see with these very shiny and waxy leaves compared to last year's growth. Well, it looks as though on this Lee jujube that the flowers, which I see here, these tiny, tiny little beautiful flowers, are happening on this year's growth because all of these leaves look very, very fresh. But they have these tiny little microscopic flowers. And if I can remember the smell smells like a Jolly Rancher or something like that. Very crisp, juicy, fruity flavor, smell rather. And I also see that this is totally loaded up with fruit. All of these tiny little fruit on here. And so this thing just gets totally loaded. I've been impressed by it. But this Long jujube, second year in the ground, also has tons and tons of flowers on here. Do you see those little guys over there? And some of them have begun to, no, it doesn't look like they've fruited. All the little flower things are ready to pop open. And so this thing, I'm trying to find a way to show you without getting stabbed by these jujube leaves. Everything here, can you see the Long jujube? Kind of where the Lee stops and the Long starts. This thing, even though I cut it down to pretty much less than half the size, has done such a good job of growing in the last year. It's grown, it's happy, and now we're going to be able to control the size of it a little bit so that way it works well in this combo. What I will likely do is this Lee, because it's more established, is wanting to grow into the space of the Long. So I'm going to come through and do a little bit of pruning here, probably this branch right here, so that way I'll get rid of all of this growth right here. But anyway, as you can see, this Long jujube is very happy, very established. You know, in fact, you see some little suckers coming out of the ground over there and showing some good signs of life. So if you live in a warm climate, a hot climate even, this is the tree and fruit for you. Lee jujube is very drought resistant. Tom Spellman will talk about a jujube as being something that you put in the hottest part of your yard. And after a few years of it being established, you almost hardly have to come out and do any type of irrigation with it. It's not as water dependent as a lot of these other plants. And so here's a quick update on this Long jujube. Very excited to see it coming along, and it's gonna have fruit this year. And so I'm very excited to try that, see how that compares to the Lee. Don't remember quite where the harvest seasons, if they're right in sync or if they're kind of different a little bit, but that would be great. You know, we love a longer harvest season. That's why we do all this excessive ripening out here in the orchard. Hey, what questions do you have? Have you planted a jujube? I know there's some other cultivars that are out there, like honey, and I think there's one called Sugar Baby or something like that. And maybe you haven't tried jujube. Maybe a good place to start is to go try a dried one and see if you like the taste of it. But anyway, sure appreciate you tuning in today. And hey, this would be a great time for you to hit the subscribe button if you're not yet subscribed to the channel. Like the video, because that makes me feel oh so good. And hit the notification bell so that way you know when new videos are updated. And hey, whether you've got one jujube tree in your orchard or 500, until next time, stay busy.